Kyle Jordan has been the morning co-anchor here at Live 5 News since 2012. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, he talks to me about his job covering the Emmanuel 9 and his future. Be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Kyle Jordan, it's so good to see you back on Quintin's Close-Ups.
It's good to have you back here in the studio.
Yes, sir.
What has it been about six and a half years, I think.
That's exactly right. What is the biggest difference between 6 years ago and now as you as an anchor here at Channel 5?
Well, as an anchor, I feel like I've grown. Obviously, things in the studio itself has changed. All of the people around me have changed. I'm the only one on the morning team now, the same from 6 years ago. New meteorologist, new traffic, new co-anchor as well.
That's as well. What is your relationship with those particular people in your mind?
As far as the new team goes, it's great. We've got morning meteorologist Joey Sovan and I both work together in Southwest Florida. He kind of encouraged me to take this job, and when the opening was there, I called him and said, "Hey, why don't you come back to Charleston as well?" I've got Abby O'Brien doing traffic, and she's amazing, and not only in what she does here in the studio, but also out in the field. And then a new co-anchor. We've just I could think just about hit a year together with Aisha Tyler here on the desk, and of course she just made the transition from doing the first alert desk over here with us. And speaking of the first alert desk, we got Michael Higdon, who's in here. And the great part about having Michael is that if I'm off, she can step in and anchor with Aisha, and if Aisha's off, she can step in as well, which is so nice because for so long we were stuck here doing it by ourselves if one of us called out sick. So that's great.
That's great. Obviously, we are still remembering the victims of the Charleston 9 and the Emmanuel 9. I know you weren't here for the Charleston 9, but you were here to cover the Emmanuel 9. Where are you emotionally 4 years later with that?
It's so tough to think about, and I know a lot of people were talking about going to see the documentary, and I really hope that it's either available as a stream or it's available on the DVD at some point, because I would love to watch it. It's so hard to relive, and it's so hard to look back, and I know we will, probably a year from now, we'll probably do more for the 5th anniversary as people continue to think about it. The Charleston 9, I mean, I was on the air in Southwest Florida when that happened, and I can still remember the discussions as we were finding out more about it down there in Florida. And obviously when we hit the 10-year anniversary a couple of years ago, doing stories, I spoke with Louis Mulkey's mother and kind of did a feature on him. And it's interesting because of that, it pops up on Facebook at the anniversary and the stories that we've done, and so it's a constant reminder. I think when you look at the community and the way that the community responded to the church shooting, I think so many people were impressed, whether you lived in Charleston or didn't live in Charleston. I think that in the way the community handled it, I think it was such a difficult time, and I don't know that other communities could have responded the way that we did.
How has that particular shooting changed your life personally?
It was interesting because we were in a Bible study downtown, a few blocks away, and I remember getting the alert on my phone that there was a shooting. All we knew was there was a shooting at a church, and I kind of opened it up and I was like, "Oh, it's in downtown Charleston." At that point, we didn't have the church name. I found that out maybe an hour later as I got home, and then kind of coming in and the emotions of all of that in the first day or so, really in the first week as it was all kind of unfolding and we learned more about what happened. It was tough to take in. I think when you look back at the trial, I always felt for my coworkers who had to go sit through that because it was such emotional testimony and had to hear in a lot of cases, the graphic details. It was just something that I wasn't prepared to do. And I think that it's something that will certainly have a lasting impact on anybody in this town. But, we kind of lived it alongside the people having to report on it day by day. And I know that, we have Raphael James, who was downtown in the middle of it all as it was all kind of unfolding. And it's, for certain people in our staff, I think will definitely carry it much more than others because of how involved they were, not only in the night that it happened and the days after, but in covering the trial as well of Dylan Roof. That was definitely a heavy burden for folks on our staff to have to deal with.
I know you on the li5news.com website, you say this about your news philosophy. You said this quote, keep the folks in this community connected with what's happening in their backyard and protecting the community from scam artists trying to take money. Scam Buster segments run every Wednesday at 5:30 here. After Bobby Emanuel, after Walter Scott, how do you write your news philosophy now as a journalist?
I don't think it has really changed. I think that the important part about letting people know what's going on in their community, whether it's good or bad. I mean, I'm all about telling people, here are fun things that are happening and that kind of stuff. But it is also about protecting your community as well. Sometimes the bad news has to be reported. We get messages, people say, enough bad news, let's get, more positive things. But at the same time, it is important to let people know what's going on out there. The Scam Busters has been eye-opening for me to do those stories because I find out new things, and I'm constantly, because a lot of these scams tend to target a certain demographic, most older people, which my parents are of that age, and so I'm constantly letting my mom and dad know, like, hey, but you need to make sure you pay attention to this story. So that has a kind of a personal impact, but I feel like it is in the way, letting people know this is happening here. It's not just a online thing that's happening, in places where you don't live. It's happening in our neighborhood, and it might have happened to somebody on your street. So keep that in mind.
What else are you paying attention to as far as being a journalist?
As far as our jobs have changed, and I think it's really in the last 6.5 years since we last talked, it has changed a dramatic amount because one, the social media aspect of it, and it's not just that we're having to put information out there, but that we're getting the information. And now with the fake news idea, and you've got deep fakes, that's the new thing with the videos and altered videos. You have to be aware of what's going on, but at the same time, you have to be cautious when you're looking at stuff like that online because you just don't know what's real and what's not. And you have to, we always say, trust but verify, and that's kind of where we are.
You talk about, obviously, the news business right now. Obviously, Channel 5 just turned 66 years old recently.
Almost as old as Bill Sharp.
That's true. When you think of Channel 5 these days, what goes to your mind?
It's a station that has withstood, and a lot of that has been because of the literal anchors, Bill Sharp and Debbie Chard, who were here for so long together. Debbie leaving us earlier this year was certainly a blow, but at the same time, it's one of those things where the station is so established that you've got people, you've got Ann McGill who has been here so long on her own to move in there, and you've got Raphael with so much experience as well, and who knows how much longer Bill will be with us at the station, but you've got somebody here that is such an anchor in the community, not just in the station itself. And then we're surrounded by youthful exuberance out there in the newsroom with so many people who are brand new to the news business. I mean, we have producers who are on our morning show who are half my age. And I'm not going to say how old that is, but they're right out of college. Right. So it's a unique experience to get to have the great experience level of somebody like Bill Sharp sitting right across from me while you sit right next to somebody who is brand new in the business and trying to find their footing. And it's awesome because you can kind of help them out and also, still pick from somebody else's brain who has a lot more experience than I do.
I do. Obviously, you came to Charleston in 2012. How has Charleston changed in your mind since that time?
Well, it's grown. I lived downtown when I first moved here, and we go downtown now, my wife and I don't recognize half of the stuff. I don't, there's so many new restaurants that have opened, new things that are downtown that I didn't think would exist. And the area has changed dramatically too. I mean, you look at just the development up King Street, across the crosstown where there are so many great places to go out and eat now. And I think that when I moved here and was looking for a place to live and was asking people about neighborhoods downtown, and some people are like, well, I don't know, you might not want to live there. And now when we started moving 2 years later, those are the places that we were looking. We're like, hey, there's a great house, there. And we ended up in Park Circle, which was, great for us as well. But it's the downtown area has changed. Mount Pleasant has exploded. And then you look at some of the little pockets like Avondale and Park Circle, and those have really kind of grown. And Somerville is as well. I tell you, the toughest part about it is if you want to stay here and you want to live here and you want to buy property here, it's becoming more of a challenge because the prices have gone up. That's the downside of the growth that we've seen, and a place that everybody wants to live. Everybody's coming here.
I know we all cannot predict the future, but if you were to write, say, a headline about your future, what would that be?
Headline about my future. So I'm about 20 years away from retirement. So it would be after 40 years in the business. Longtime anchor Kyle Jordan retired. How about that?
That's good.
I'll go with that.
Good to go with that. That's amazing. Well, Kyle Jordan, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back on Quintin's Close-Ups.